Okay, so for our classical and Keynesian economics review, let's go through these few questions. For number one, economists that support the belief that the economy is self-regulating. So remember, self-regulating, this should be a key word for you. They generally advocate what? Self-regulating should clue you into our classical theory. Classical means that hands-off approach. So then laissez-faire should come into your mind. So our answer is C for that first one. Number two, when the economy's rate of unemployment is higher than the natural rate, then this creates what? Well, what we're saying here is that if our unemployment now, so UE, if in fact that is greater than our UN, then what does that tell us about our output? Well, if our unemployment now is higher than our unemployment at natural rate, then that means that our output QE is less than the output at our natural full employment level. So when this relationship is going on with our quantity output GDP, then that means in fact we are in a recessionary gap. So in a recessionary gap, what happens? Well, think about there's a lot of unemployed resources. So in fact, we end up with a surplus. So surplus should be your two keywords here, and then B and D then. What's happening with the pressure on wages and prices? Well, in a surplus situation, we end up with a downward pressure. So B is our answer for number two. Number three, if actual GDP exceeds full employment level of real GDP, in this case we've got our actual, meaning right now our QE is greater than what we want to produce at that natural level, full employment QN. Therefore here we are in an inflationary gap. In an inflationary gap, we know that our we end up with a shortage this time of workers, capital, resources, etc. Therefore, prices will go up, and that will then cause our short-run aggregate supply curve to decrease. So input prices should increase, so we have rise, and SRAS will shift to the left. So our answer should be C for number three. Number four, if an economy is initially in equilibrium at full employment, and the government lowers taxes, all other things constant, aggregate demand will do what? Well, with a decrease in taxes, we should expect to see increase in spending. Therefore, an aggregate demand curve shift to the right, and when that happens, our price level should increase. So D will be our answer for number four. Number five, which of the following demonstrates the process that occurs for closing a recessionary gap in a self-regulating economy? Again, self-regulating, classical theory. Classical, we've got short-run aggregate supply here and here, so let's look at A and D to eliminate some of our other choices. With a self-regulating economy in a recessionary gap, we in fact see unemployed resources. They put downward pressure, which leads to lower cost of production and an increase in SRAS. So therefore, for number five, D is our answer choice. Number six, Keynes argued that an economy can achieve short-run equilibrium at a level of real GDP below full employment because, if we remember, Keynes was all about sticky prices. Those prices could get stuck. Therefore, B is our answer. Just to recap, A is classical, supply creates its own demand. For C, also classical, Say's law. And D, that vertical long-run curve, also classical theory. So B, again, our answer for number six. Number seven, macroeconomic equilibrium occurs when? Remember, A, unemployment is never zero. Inflation likely also never zero. And then government adheres to a balanced budget sometimes, but our answer here is D, when everything is in equilibrium, aggregate expenditures equals aggregate or total production. So all of our spending equals all of our output. Number eight, if MPC, marginal propensity to consume, is 0.75, a $100 increase in disposable income will lead to what? Well, if the MPC is 0.75, that means that we've got $75 going towards consumption, with the remaining $25 going towards savings. This is an increase, so we'll see both of these numbers also be an increase. Therefore, for number 8, our answer is B, $25 increase in savings. For number 9, if equilibrium income falls, keyword here, decrease, by $800 when investment spending falls, again by $200, what's our multiplier? Well, remember our relationship. We know that negative $800 overall change, equilibrium income, remember is GDP, will be equal to a decrease in investment of 200 times some multiplier. And in this case, our multiplier has to be what? Well, negative 200 times our multiplier equals negative 800. So our multiplier has to be 4 in this case. Our answer is D. Number 10, an $8 million decrease in investment spending when the NPS is 0.2 may potentially lead to what? First, if we calculate our multiplier 1 over the NPS, which is 1 over 0.2, our multiplier equals 5. So if we decrease investment by 8, so negative 8 times our multiplier, which is 5, overall we should see a decrease of 40. So a decrease in equilibrium up to $40. So for number 10 we have A. Number 11, with the MPC at 0.875, our Keynesian model leads to a conclusion that spending multiplier is equal to what? Well, if MPC is 0.875, then our NPS must be equal to 0.125, and our multiplier, 1 over 0.125, will give us 8. In this case, we can eliminate B and D quickly, and we know that 8 times 100 would be 800. So A, our answer choice for 11. Number 12, Keynesian economics, the fiscal policy used to deal with what? An inflationary gap or recessionary gap. With Keynes, our main concern was recessionary, so let's eliminate A and B. And in a recessionary gap, we need to stimulate spending, therefore we want to increase government spending and or reduce taxes. So C, our answer for number 12. Number 13, assume government reduces taxes by $5 million. If NPS is 0.25, what's the maximum impact on GDP? If we're talking about taxes, we need to use our tax multiplier. So it's a little bit different. Remember, it is equal to the negative of the MPC over the NPS. So when I go back and substitute in here, I have negative 0.75 over 0.25, which leaves me with a multiplier of negative 3. So think about, if we reduce tax by 5 million, that's a good thing. So mathematically, this works out to be a positive number. So the decrease of 5 times our negative multiplier of 3, we get a positive change of 15. So real GDP will be a positive number. So we will see real GDP increase by 15 million. C, our answer choice here. And for number 14, equilibrium income is 2,000 million. Full employment is 2180. So a couple things happening here. Think about our output now is equal to that 2,000. At full employment, it's 2180. So what's happening here is that we're in a recessionary gap of 180 million. So how do we close the gap? Well, we know we need to see some sort of increase by this total 180. So 180 will be equal to something times our multiplier. Out to the side, if I do my multiplier work here, I have 1 over 0.1 because my MPC is 0.9, so my MPS is 0.1 here. 1 divided by 0.1 is a multiplier of 10. So for my equation, I've got 180 total will be equal to something times that 10. And what goes here has to be that 18. So again, we'll look for $18 million increase in government spending will close the gap. That should make sense because if we increase government spending, that'll shift our aggregate demand curve, which will then close the gap. So aggregate demand shift, Keynesian theory for number 14. And number 15, we see Something we'll move right into after the test. So automatic expansionary fiscal policy. Fiscal means we're looking at government making changes. All right, we can have automatic, so that means that it happens as the economy is changing automatically, therefore no reform is part of the automatic policy change. Looking also at expansionary, that means we need to grow. So if we're wanting to grow the economy, we would not want higher taxes. In fact, we would want lower taxes. And the automatic comes from reduced incomes during an economic downturn. So D, our answer for 15, but more to come on that in our next section right after the test. Hope this helps, and be studying.